Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We welcome you once again to the airwaves of Salam Media, the first edition of In Conversation with myself, Inayat Wadi, on Wednesday nights after the month of Ramadan. And it's great to be back on this platform where once again we tackle some hard-hitting issues. We tackle issues from right across the entire world, global issues, current events, and it's just great. It's wonderful that we are able to assemble these panels together to provide you with a detailed understanding on some of the developments that are taking place around the world. Now, tonight, we are going to be talking over the next 2 hours on two events or on two developments, I would say rather. The first hour is going to be focused purely on India and the controversial Waqf Bill, and this is a bill that has created a lot of discussion. It's created a lot of debate, and to the extent that this is a matter that is going to the Supreme Court. Now, we will be unpacking what this bill is all about and why the controversy surrounding the bill. My guests tonight are going to be Shahzeen Khan, editor of the Observer Post, and advocate Masood Khan, joining us out of Hyderabad in India this evening. Later on in the program, our focus is going to be entirely on Gaza and two issues that we will be focusing on. And once again, the target of medics and the target of journalists in Gaza, and why this is so crucial, why this is so important. And globally, we've seen the outrage most recently, particularly with regard to the medical aid workers, the ambulance that was actually buried and with the medics that were buried, that were murdered, that were killed and buried with this ambulance as well. So we will be focusing with on that issue a little later on. We've got a spokesperson from the International Red Crescent with us. We've got Lina Abu Jarradi, who's joining us out of Jordan, and also we've got a doctor who will be joining us this evening. But before all of that, we're going across now to India and to be joined by my two guests. And I see on screen already, we've seen Shahzeen Khan, editor of the Observer Post. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, Shahzeen.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me here.
Yes, and also Advocate Masood Khan. Assalamu alaikum to you out in Hyderabad. Wonderful that you're able to join us as well.
Walaikum salam, sir. Thanks for inviting me to the debate.
Yes, in fact, well, let's start off with you, Advocate. And obviously, this is now another bill that has been passed by the Indian government, the Waqf Bill. And this obviously has created a lot of controversy. The little that I've read about this bill, obviously talking about who has the right to declare a Waqf. It talks about only a person practicing Islam for at least 5 years may declare Waqf. It clarifies issues about property. It removes Waqf from the user. There are just so many issues at this point in time. And let's just start and get a bit of a detailed understanding, Advocate, and a background to this Waqf Bill.
The whole controversy is that the new government, which is a fascist government in India from 2014, backed by the fascist regime of RSS, Rashtriya Sangam, something like that, they have been opposed to the idea of India right from 1925 when it came into being. They did not support the Indian government. They did not support the Indian fight for independence. They did not support the leaders who were fighting for Indian independence also. Now, from 1947, after the independence, India was ruled by secular governments. These are the people who do not subscribe to the values of constitution. They did not subscribe for 55 years to the Indian flag. After 2014, when they came into power, they have been targeting the Muslims, and they call them minorities. Although Muslims in India are 200 crores, 20 crores of Muslim in India, the largest of the population of Muslims, perhaps after Indonesia. Now, the coming to the Waqf Bill first time in India was enacted in British India in 1913 to enable Muslims to propound their Waqf. And if I'm permitted to say so, this Waqf was origined from the period of Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, where the second Caliph, Hazrat Umar Raziallahu Ta'ala anhu, came to the Prophet and said, when Prophet intended that some property should be bestowed in the name of God and title should be attached to God only for the sake of beneficiaries who are poor and down. That was the first Waqf. Thereafter, in India, the Waqf became worldwide. The concept of Waqf, the concept of Waqf is that the title is inalienable because in Indian law and elsewhere in the entire world, the title of a property, any property, belong to its owner and it can be sold, alienated. To protect that alienability, Waqf was enacted in 1913 for the first time. Then it was improved. चाबी मिली कहते हैं, improved लालो improved in 1923. Thereafter, it was told in that British India that Waqf properties are prevalent in India from 1200 centuries, 12th century onwards. To find out the Waqf properties, the only source available in India was the revenue records. Earlier, there used to be revenue records. In India, it is called Pahani and also Khasra Pahani. That was the two records. And that Pahani Patrika of 1954 is taken as a document of title. Now, after 1923, it was found that there are a lot of WAFs and there was no law or enactment to manage the property. I may make it clear here that the government of India of 1923, 1913, 1923 did not grant any property to WAF, not even an inch, not even a paisa. Because the WAF Act, right from the beginning, unlike Indian Endowments Act or Trust Act, there is no word given in other laws, that is Trust Act and in Hindu Endowments Act, there is a word property given. But in Waqf Act, it is not that property can be given by anybody except the true owner. After 1923, it was found that large scale of properties are undetected in India. To find out, in 1930, the act was made into retrospective effect because the concept in India, also Supreme Court in Sayyid Ali versus Union of State of Andhra Pradesh have held that once a WAF, always a WAF. It means that the title is tagged to Almighty and the beneficiaries are poor and downtrodden, irrespective of the religion. The third point was after 1930, when the act was made retrospective, then there was a question of management of Waqf properties. So after 1947, when India became republic on 26th November 1950, for the first time, the Constituent Assembly was the first Parliament of India up from 1950 to 1952, where the first election happened and Indian Parliament took over. The Constituent Assembly was constituted under 1935 Indian Independence Act and Government of India Act. That Constituent Assembly was asked to act as a parliament. From 1950 to 52, all these enactments was enacted and absorbed by the in Indian Constitution after India became republic. That Constituent Assembly from 1950 to 52 also was a parliament. After the Indian Parliament, first Indian elected parliament under elections from 1950 to 52, 1954, immediately after 2 years, there was an enactment to improve the working, management, and condition of WAF, the WAF Act 1954. That was the first comprehensive law which only and all be it kept in mind that right from 1913, 23, 30, and 54, there is not even a single property, single inch of property or cash or anything else which is given by any organization, much less a government of India. It was all the properties belonging to Muslims or erstwhile Maharajas or erstwhile regents and kings. See, the concept of a king is a country ruled by a king is taken as the property belongs to the king, the country belongs to the king, the people belong to the king, and the property also belongs to the kings. So that is how the earlier Rajas, Maharajas, and kings all used to donate property in the name of Waqf, because Waqf, anybody whose owner has to only dedicate. After 1954, the Waqf was improved only towards management. Thereafter, there was another amendments. In 1986, there was another small amendment. Then 1995, there was a further amendment, and thereafter, in 19 after 1995, then 2025. Now, this enactment is taken as, may I quote, anti-Waqf and anti-Muslim for two reasons. One, Waqf is an organization, it's an institution, it's a statutory body. Waqf is an institution, is a statutory body. May I continue, sir?
Yes, in fact, let's just bring Shahzeen into the discussion, because Shahzeen, I like your thoughts as well, and we thank you, Advocate, for providing that comprehensive background to how this has actually evolved over a period of time. Now, Shahzeen, we know that Muslims in India have been under the radar of this BJP government for a very, very long time. And as Advocate alluded to, a right wing fascist supremacist government. And this is exactly what it's actually turned out to be. And we've seen over a period of time the systematic targeting of Muslims. And now that we're talking about work as well, what comes to mind obviously is the whole Babri Masjid saga as well. And just looking at how this law could impact on Muslims in India, anything, any property on work. It could possibly a masjid, it could be an educational institution, it could be a darul uloom, it could be a madrasa, it could be any property that is under threat when one actually tries to unpack and understand what this law is all about.
Yes. Mr. Inayat, let me begin by saying this, that what is happening in India right now is not just about one bill or one amendment. It is part of a larger systematic attack on minority institutions, especially Muslims. The way this controversial Waqf bill was recently passed in India's parliament without any real discussion with stakeholders and without consulting the community it directly impacts, it is deeply troubling. And it reflects a trend we have seen over and over again in the past few years since the rise of this Hindutva nationalist government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So here I'm going to briefly discuss a few key changes that come with the new amendments in the Waqf bill. The first is who can donate land to Waqf bill. So previously, anyone, regardless of religion, could donate to Waqf. Now these new amendments says only a Muslim who has been a Muslim in the past 5 years can donate land to Waqf. This ruling will certainly restrict people from donating their properties for Muslims' social welfare. Historically, there have been instances where Hindus and Sikhs donated land for mosque or Muslim charities. Now, with this new amendment, the government is closing that door. And secondly, this bill mandates two non-Muslim members on every Waqf board. So let me ask, is there a single major Hindu religious trust in India with Muslim members on its board? Take examples of the Tirumala Tirupati Trust. There are no Muslim board members. And take example of Sri Jagannath Temple Managing Committee, Vaishno Devi Shrine Board, and the recently built Ram Mandir Trust. They are entirely Hindu member bodies. But if Muslim bodies now need non-Muslim oversight, so why don't Hindu or Christian Sikh bodies require the same? So also when non-Muslim members can not donate their properties to Waqf as per the new amendments, so why should they have a say in Waqf governance? This is the one question. So we see this clearly isn't about inclusion, as the government is saying. This is unnecessary state intervention, or we say interference in Muslims' religious affairs. These new Waqf amendment bills are unnecessary interference in Muslims' religious affairs. I repeat. Thirdly, in this amendment, there are certain provisions which allow district magistrates to have sole authority to cancel any claim on any Waqf land, even if the land is under any legal dispute. So, suppose if a mosque or any graveyard or any educational institute which has served Muslim community for over 100 years, and just because its documents or papers are being questioned and the claim is challenged, so one bureaucrat or officer under any political pressure, they can declare that it's not a Waqf land and they can take it away. So, as one can clearly see how these reforms aren't about transparency, rather they're about transferring control of Muslim land to the state through unchecked executive or bureaucratic power. There is around over 8 lakh acres of Waqf land in India. So it is not hard to see why the government is interested. And here we are talking about the prime community owned land worth billions. So, given the growing distrust between Muslim community and the state recently in India, so Muslims have every reason to be suspicious of the government's intentions with this new amendment, because this isn't happening in isolation. It is part of a bigger pattern. We see the CAA, NRC, and the Triple Talaq Bill and the Babri Mosque. So this is a clear pattern which one can identify what the government's intentions are with these new amendments. And the fourth contentious point in this bill is about the land documentation. So there are so many mosque and Muslim graveyards in rural areas in India which do not have formal documentation, as clearly explained by Mr. Masood here, due to some past neglect or the historical significance of these properties. So now this bill suddenly requires that all properties, they should submit government documents within 6 months. And if they do not submit the proper documents, their properties could be handed over to the government. And plus, all this documentation needs to be updated annually. So we can say that this is a silent erasure and bulldozing of Muslim properties in India under the guise of Waqf reforms. Yes, the Waqf board needed some reforms. There were issues, we agree, with the management and the lack of revenue generation from Waqf lands, we can say. But the government's selective focus on only Muslims' religious affairs and Muslims' institution, while on the other hand, Hindu religious boards, which control billions in temple revenue, they face no such scrutiny or state interference. So the double standard of the government here, it raises serious question about the government's true intentions with the Muslim community. For example, take in 2022, there was the Karnataka Waqf Board and also the Tirumala Tirupati Trust in Andhra Pradesh. They faced corruption allegations. But now only the Waqf Board is being restructured by the law, while there is little to no intervention by the government in the Hindu religious affairs. So whether it is CAA, NRC, Triple Talaq, and this Waqf amendments, we can see there is a clear pattern here where Muslims' identity is being criminalized somehow, Muslims' properties and businesses are being targeted somehow, and on the front of governance now, Muslim voices are being excluded in the policy making. So, to all Muslims across the world, I would say that this is not just an issue for Indian Muslims, as the Waqf land is not just a property, it is a part of our religious life, it is our social welfare network, as described by Mr. Masood here. So, I would urge all the international human rights groups that they must also take note that this bill clearly violates Article 26 of India's Constitution, which is right to manage religious affairs of and also this bill violates United Nations guidelines on religious freedom and basic property rights. So the world must speak up. The world must speak up now, because what is at stake is not just the land; it is the very idea of a pluralistic and democratic India.
Well, certainly. In fact, we thank you as well for the Shahzeen. And really, you raised some very, very critical points, some critical issues. And the one thing, Advocate Masood, that I seen Shahzeen repeat, talking about the intention behind this bill. And yeah, we are talking, and you alluded to this as well, in terms of the millions of Muslims and the huge Muslim population in India, and also in terms of we're not talking about small chunks of land. We're talking about, like we mentioned, millions and millions of acres of vingas, as we know in India, in terms of land as well, that will be affected, institutions, all of that actually put together. And I think the other critical point that Shazin raises, that this is not only an Indian Muslim issue. This should be an issue for Muslims right across the entire world. Like we talk about Aqsa, and that has got to be for Muslims, Masjid al Aqsa, which is a Muslim issue right across the entire world, in terms of supporting, in terms of raising our voices on behalf of the Muslims in India who are affected by this Waqf Bill as well. Absolutely important, critical, Advocate Masood.
So may I add something to what Shazin has been saying? The problem is this: the new enactment of practicing Muslim. There is no law or no rule in India, or it can be proving who's a practicing Muslim. It is impractical. Then the second point, which collector is the sole authority to decide. Collector is a government employee appointed by the government on their own people who are subdue to them. So collector cannot be a can be a very biased person to do that. The third thing about documents, may I say so, that first time Registration Act for identification of documents was propounded in India in 19 not Registration Act 1908. There, there is no rule in India how a document can be preserved. Earlier to that, there was only revenue records. From the time of 1260 or 70, Shershah Suri, there used to be a revenue record. There is only one source of a revenue record, including government property, are only revenue record from which we can find. So if you want to say that you have to have a document in India after it was taken over by Britishers or earlier people or after that independence, there is no rule or law that there can be one document unless registered by one owner to other. The third problem is of inclusion of non-Muslim. See, it is not a problem of Muslim or non-Muslim. It is the problem of Article 14 equality, because in every Hindu's Endowments Act, the Hindus are kept because they have knowledge of the religion, including a revenue in revenue tribunals in India. There are persons who are appointed with the specialized knowledge of revenue. Income tax tribunals, there are persons who are appointed because they have specialized knowledge about income tax. Now, coming back to the document in the existing Waqf Act, which is repealed, there was already three provisions which enabled a Waqf. There was a survey commissioner appointed by the government, existing government, who will go survey the property, and he will correlate with the revenue records. Revenue records, sir, are the only records available in India, including if the government of India wants to say that it is the property, they will only rely on the revenue records. That on par with that, work property is also recorded there. The problem is it's a stepmotherly treatment where you are asking lakhs and lakhs of dargahs, some masajid, and lot of other things attached to that to produce a document. You cannot overnight in a 6 months or including 60 years. I'm telling you, even if you want government of India to produce document for what properties government of India or the state government or government organizations are holding, they cannot, because governments only issue geo to organizations. So that is only an order which propounds that it's a government property. Now they say you have to give a declaration of property. Earlier, there was a declaration in Waqf Act. There was a survey commissioner in Waqf Act. Also, Waqf Board was given a property power to inquire and find out whether it's a Waqf property or not. Survey commissioner by Supreme Court in Hadi Begum case and in other case of Sayyid Ali, Supreme Court have categorically said that survey commissioner appointed by the government has a power of a civil code, original code, and he can inquire. Anybody has a dispute. There are 5 cases, 3 judges. 1979, there is one case, Radhakrishna versus State of Rajasthan. The other was Karnataka Waqf Board. Another 3 judges, Karnataka Waqf Board versus Union of India. Then Sayyid Ali. All these cases, Supreme Court have categorically held that Waqf is a valid act, and the process of survey commissioner is a valid process. Another process of Waqf Board finding its own property is by way of evidence. It is not only by way of declaration. Now, coming back to sum up my point is, if we want to ask Government of India, see, there is a act in India called Bona Vacantia Act. What happens is, if the government finds that nobody is claiming ownership of the property, by exercise of propoundance of sovereignty, the government declares a GO, government order, and says that Bona Vacantia, Bona is bona fide, vacantia is vacant land, any property. Now you see, after partition, when a lot of people went to India, went to Pakistan, their property was taken over by the government of India and it was allotted to different people. So the process of documentation in India is not authentic. After 1908 Registration Act, only owner, and in Waqf Act also, it is very categorical that unless you are owner, you cannot dedicate any property to the Waqf. The problem here, which this fascist government is doing, is that see, Indian Muslims are, as they say, census are 20 crores. Be it that is, the WAF has, according to the government sources, 8 lakh acres. 4,480 square yards is 1 acre, like 8 lakh acres. But you see, sir, Hindu properties in the mandirs in only 4 states, Karnataka, Telangana, and all, are 12 lakhs. So it is not the quantum of property; it is the property which belong to the WAF. Now, what government is doing is, this is also part of the economy of the central government, economy of the citizen of India. See, I am also a citizen of India because I am a taxpayer, and I'm sorry, as an economist told us, that every Indian, even if a rickshaw puller, out of his own income, not the income tax, pays 67% of this daily income into indirect taxes, GST and all that. So we are taxpayers. How is anybody concerned to my professing of religion? We are not bothered about the religion who's professing Hinduism. And what will happen to atheists then? What will government of India do to atheists then? So it is not about the professing of Islam or professing of religion. It is about a property. We have 5 articles: 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. All protects people of minority. Minority is not only Muslims. Minority is linguistic minority. In India, there are minorities. Gujaratis are minorities in Telangana. Punjabis are minority in Kashmir. South Indians are minority in the linguistic minority and also religious minority. So we have societies, we have trusts, we have sanstans. All of them have properties. If you one pinpoint and say this particular property, because this is the essence of Indian economy, 8 lakh acres is an essence of economy. And another thing which I want to emphasize to sum up is, under Waqf Act, a beneficiary is poor and downtrodden, notwithstanding his religion. And the last point which I am submitting to sum up is, Article 300A of Indian Constitution says, the government of India cannot take any property. This was inserted after amendment. Initially, Indian Constitution said any property belonging to Indian citizen cannot be taken away. After some controversies, this was inserted along with 31A. The Constitution said you cannot take anybody's property without paying compensation. Now, what virtually government is doing by this amendment is, they are putting their own people. And another point which I emphasize, sir, is, in law there is no concept of government property. In a sovereign country, I am sovereign. We the people of India, my constitution starts, we the people of India have constituted the constitution. So I am sovereign, and President of India is my representative. Entire parliament, I elect them, and they are treated in Indian law and CRPC. I'm summing up in half a second. is treated, they are public servants. There is nothing called government property. It is all a public property. So Waqf is a property. It is only protection that it should not be alienated. So by this insertions, what government is doing, trying to do is they are creating a majoritarian fascism, trying to take the property of the Muslims. What are they trying to do is, see, I'm sitting in my house. Tomorrow, government comes and says that nobody can hold a property. I will have a collector to decide whose property is this. So I will lose my property. Likewise, Waqf board is an institution who manages property. Waqf board is not the owner of the property. To protect this property, we need that this entire law, which is now in 25, has to be redundant. It has to be resolved, taken back by the government. May I add this? Earlier to this, they also came up with law against the agriculturists. After the huge fiasco in India, 700 agriculturalists died. They came on roads for 6 months, or it's still going on. And after that, that was taken back by the government. There was an amendment of CRPC wherein they said in accident the driver will be jailed for 10 years. When drivers threatened that they will go for agitation, that amendment was also taken away. My only worry in India is this: you cannot point out a citizen, because I'm a taxpayer. You cannot point out a citizen if he is professing any religion or an atheist. You cannot take my property, because Constitution of India protects a property to its owner. And in Islam, this is a unique feature in where there is no synonym in any other practices, that a property is tagged to Almighty. And you know why it is done? Because in the entire world, especially in India, Transfer of Property Act says whoever is the owner can sell the property. So to protect from inalienability, protect the inalienability and protect the property, and beneficiaries are not my progenies. Beneficiaries are humankind. Humankind, notwithstanding his religion. They can be from Hinduism, they can be Buddhism, they can be from anybody. So this is what we are now, as advocates also, we are planning a national-wide agitation, and we are also planning, there are lot number of cases which are in Supreme Court. The problem is the government has now enacted it and also started taking over the positions of the property. That is
Yes,
also.
advocate. In fact, what I need to do is I need to go for a quick ad break, but also I want to talk about some of these issues with regard to the challenges associated with legal challenges to the Supreme Court for someone like yourself that comes from a legal background. But Shahzeen, when we come back after the break, I also want to look at some of the practical considerations, the practical consequences of this bill being passed, because it's not only about the Waqf Bill, it extends into Muslim personal law, it extends into inheritance as well. Because just having read up what I have with regard to the bill as well, it talks of Waqf alal awlad, and talking about the denial of inheritance rights to the donor's heir. Now, there are so many other practical consequences and considerations that one actually needs to think about and to talk about as a result of this bill being passed. But right now, we're going to go for a quick ad break. We'll come back, and Shahzeen, you could just then discuss and talk about some of the practical issues that may arise, please.
Thank you, sir.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name. Valley's Motor Spares.
Kids these days are smart, and when you're competing for their attention against their smartphones, you need to make smart choices, like using Sunfoil triple refined pure sunflower oil in every meal you make. It's naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether you're cooking, frying, or baking, you get the great tasting results that'll get their attention faster than the latest app. And if that doesn't work, change the Wi-Fi password. Sunfoil. Now we're cooking.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean Al Bayt Lodge, your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities, conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities. Your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
Aman means safety.
The Aman School of Excellence in Finetown, South Africa, is securing the futures of underprivileged children by providing world-class education in a safe and nurturing environment. Sponsor a child for only 15,000 Rand per year or any amount. A quality education at Aman presents a pathway out of poverty and a brighter future for South Africa.
Africa Muslims Agency. Empowering, educating, inspiring.
Yasin Badat Financial Advisory. Are your financial goals feeling out of reach? Yasin Badat Financial Advisory is here to turn your aspirations into achievements. Our dedicated team, armed with a history of success, is ready to guide you through the complex nature of financial and investment planning. Whether you're a seasoned investor or new to the game, our personalized solutions cater to your unique goals and risk appetite. Trust in our commitment to transparency, integrity, and excellence. Ready to unlock a world of financial freedom? Partner with us today. Call Yasin Badat Financial Advisory at +27 33 346 2071 or visit www.yasinbadat.com. Yasin Badat Financial Advisory, guiding you to financial success.
This Ramadan, make a conscious choice, sip for change, and support Palestine Drinks Africa. With every can, you help end the genocide and stand in solidarity with Palestine. Choose between our original or sugar-free options, available in a case of 24. Every sip is a step towards justice. Every purchase, a powerful message of unity and support for the Palestinian cause. Contact 082 888 1440 or 082 7739 556 today and be part of the change. Palestine Drinks Africa. Sip for change. Liberty for everyone.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Well, we continue our discussion in conversation with myself, United Wadi, on this Wednesday evening. We are taking a look at India and the controversial Waqf Bill, which many obviously have slammed as well, which includes the Indian opposition saying that they will challenge this properties bill, and for many, many reasons. And there are practical issues that one needs to take into account, where we're talking about this bill, talking about aiding non-Muslims that would manage properties of Muslims that could possibly be trusts for masajid, for madrasas. It could be for any other religious sites as well. And as much as Narendra Modi and his BJP government talk about a major milestone for reform and transparency, it is clear from my two guests tonight, Shahzeen Khan and Advocate Masood Khan, also with regard to the clear intentions as far as the passing of this bill is concerned. And we're going to see a lot of this challenged in the Supreme Court, which the advocate will take us through. But also, again, we see from the opposition, we've seen Sonia Gandhi calling it a brazen assault on the Constitution and very much a BJP deliberate strategy to keep our society in a state of permanent polarization. Now, again, like I mentioned, Shahzeen, I said just from this statement alone from Sonia Gandhi talking about polarization again, and we know what the Hindutva strategy has been in India as well, the assault on Muslims, the burning of masajids, possibly even giving them now even an open license to create a lot more mayhem as well. I just shudder. I fear to think what some of these consequences could be, Shahzeen.
Some practical consequences may be the mass cancellation of Waqf claims, in my belief, who do not, the properties which do not have proper legal documents to support their claims. And there will be mass eviction of lands and institutions, which may include centuries of old mosque graveyards and madrasas. And might erupt communal tensions, especially in those areas where Waqf land is surrounded by non-Muslim settlements. And since the Waqf boards are already underfunded, and so they may lack resources to carry out this mass documentation exercise within 6 months. So this will likely result in many properties being marked as undocumented, and they will automatically hand it over to the state, in my opinion. And internal conflicts will appear in the board with the inclusion of non-Muslim members who might have different religious perspectives. So there will be clashes over sensitive issues, and there will be a growing sense of alienation in Muslim community, who may feel that their institutions are no longer in their control. And the bill will trigger a mass wave of legal petitions and constitutional challenges, particularly on the grounds of Article 26, Article 14, and Article 25, as mentioned by Mr. Masood sir here, and also the violation of property rights under Article 300A. So, Waqf properties often fund education, healthcare, and social welfare programs within the Muslim community. So, with land dispute, evictions might take place, and many of these services could be disrupted, hampering the benefits to the already downtrodden Muslim community here. And the students in the madrasas, already underfunded madrasas, they might be impacted in practicality. And also the poor families who may be relying on Waqf housing or some age-old Waqf properties. So they may face challenges here. And in times like these, I would also would like to add one aspect here, which is about the Indian news media. So we saw that there was very little reporting done by Indian news media on the Waqf issues, and also the propaganda and so many false claims were spread by mainstream media. So as someone who leads an independent news network focused on marginalized voices, I have seen firsthand how these issues around the Waqf, they were ignored or sometimes twisted by the mainstream media, which are merely the mouthpieces of government these days. So it was independent journalism that focused on the ground reports and the actual issues of minority in India, whether it was The Wire or Maktub or Article 14 or The Observer Post. So we have been the ones who documented the silent erasing of Muslim institutions and the major policy shift in India's politics. So this is how international human rights organization and even the diaspora community get accurate information about what is happening in India. So it is very crucial for the community to support independent media in times like these. And since the government is also aware of the power of independent voices, so we have seen the frequent raids, arrest, and intimidation of journalists, especially from the Muslim and marginalized Dalit backgrounds. So when we talk about the implication and practical life impact of the Waqf Bill, so there are so many nuances here which we must look at. And with the Waqf Bill, we should also talk about the position of independent journalism in India, and we should also talk about the press freedom here and the minorities' rights and the conditions. So with this, I would like to conclude my arguments here, and let the Mr. Masood take the lead from here.
Jazakallah for that, Shahzeen. In fact, as you mentioned, all the nuances as well that are associated, but there's just so much one can actually unpack in terms of those nuances as well. And I'm sure we'll spend the better part of 2 hours if we're going to go through each and every aspect in detail in terms of the consequences. But Advocate Masood, I want to come now talking about this legal challenge to the Supreme Court as well. And again, questioning how independent is the judiciary in India to tackle a case like this, because we've seen from right across the board in India, from the Jamiatul Hind in India, we've seen it from the personal law, Islamic Personal Law Board as well in India. We've seen opposition parties, we've seen individual politicians, we've seen many organizations, many institutions actually going to take this matter up to the Supreme Court. Now, what are some of the key issues? What are some of the considerations? And again, the all important question in terms of the independence of the judiciary. As Shahzeen mentioned, she spoke about mainstream media talking very little about the work bill as well. But again, from a legal point of view and looking at it as a legal challenge again, is this going to be another case where the matter may go to the Supreme Court, and we may all be in for a shock or a surprise in terms of the outcome?
So to talk about properties, Waqf is not only one who's possessing properties. The nature of properties in India is government. In fact, it is a public property, Waqf property, Hindu endowment property, Trust Act, trust properties. Societies have protected their properties. Then companies, Indian companies and national, international companies have their own properties. There are organizations who possess properties, and also the tribals, scheduled caste, and scheduled tribes. These are all protected properties to its ownership. If government cannot, under Indian Constitution, interfere in anybody's personal rights or liberty as guaranteed under Article 21. Government has to be equal to all under Article 14. And Club with 300A protects that any property belonging to any individual cannot be taken up. Now, the other point is properties like masjid, khanqa, dargah, and all this. The very nature of property is a document. You cannot have a document for everybody. Now, tomorrow, if I am married, I will have a nikah nama. But till very recently, Hindus who got married did not have a document of the marriage. Now there is a registration act, compulsory registration act. So what do you say? Are they not married if it is not a document? The point is, if you allow these governments to interfere into the organizations, what will happen to juristic persons, companies, trusts, societies, and Hindu endowments? What will happen to the protected properties of SC, BCs, and especially tribal areas? They have lot larger protection. Entire 300, Article 371 A to D, DEFG protects tribals' properties. If government is allowed by Supreme Court to do this, they will start interfering in everybody's property. See, government, a parliament is a public servant elected by the government to represent the people. They cannot act against the will of the people. They have to act in consonance to what the people want. The second point I want to emphasize is the Supreme Court will certainly have to look into that this act is manifest arbitrary. It's a violation of fundamental rights, violation of right to life, and also unreasonable to implement. Unreasonable to implement because the collector cannot be the judge. In fact, in earlier act, there was a tribunal. Tribunal will look into, even in any case, anybody who wants to challenge the property can go to tribunal, including there are some judgments where they also go to High Court under 226 file rates. The consequences will be nobody's property, none of the company's property. Tomorrow government doesn't like you, the government can interfere and take away company's property. Company is a juristic person, and companies are the economy of India. Now endowments, there are a lot of Hindu endowments, a lot of mandirs, sanstans, sanastas, all these. They also possess property. They also have lot of cash donations. At least Waqf Dargah and Waqf Masjid do not have cash donations. In Tirumala, including the newly constructed Ram Mandir, there are a lot of donations. What will happen if the government tells that they want to take away the entire property? Where will the Hindus go? As I see, it is not today, it is not the question. Nobody should be happy that it is about Muslims. It is about the right of owner. An owner can be Hindu, Muslim, anybody, including a juristic person, as I said, it can be an organization or a society. There are lots of social society, international organizations who are possessing properties. What tomorrow government says, no, we will be on your board. It cannot be. It will be dangerous. It will become monarchy. It will become absolutely unlivable. It is not a sovereignty of a country. The third part, Supreme Court, sir, I can only say is a Supreme Court is what a judge is. Now, in Babri Masjid, there are 5 judges widely condemned by the Indian, irrespective of religion, everybody condemned the judgment, saying, when you said there was no mandir beneath Babri Masjid, when it said it was not demolished, when it said everything, only basing upon their astha or their belief, you gave the judgment. In fact, Babri Masjid is not Babri Masjid judgment. Supreme Court did not give against Muslims of Babri Masjid. Why? Because they have granted another 5 acres. Although Muslims of India have not accepted that, but the fact is, it is not adjudication, because adjudication one has to lose. None has lost here. Babri Masjid, the land of Babri Masjid remains as it is. The structure on it is something else. Now, from that, what happens is all those 5 judges were given some fruitful positions afterwards. Justice Chandrachud became Chief Justice. And you know what happened when Justice Chandrachud came on record and said he sought uh, divine intervention in granting the judgment. I'm telling you one thing, sir. In India, it is not about opposition. In India, it's not about. There are more non-Muslims who have challenged the act. If there are 10 challenges in Supreme Court today, as on now, there are 7 Hindus and only 3 or 4 are Muslim. Jamaat-e-Islami, Hind, or Muslim Personal Law Board, to my personal opinion, I'm not quoting anybody. The problem is that, see, when COVID happened in the entire world, doctor community came out and they lost life to protect the humankind. The problem with this organization is they do not have inbuilt legal system. They are all people who are not legal. None of them are. The Jamaat Ulama Hind, they are all scholars. They should know much about the religion. They should know how to propound the religion, how to protect the religion, how to propagate it. How will they know the legal nuances? They don't have a single lawyer to guide them in on their board. Now come back to Muslim Personal Law Board. It's a board which is a society. The name is a board, but it's in fact it can be only a society, either Central Act 1896 or the 1350 State Acts. The society has called board. In board, if you see, they are all people except a lawyer there. So what they do is they have to rely upon outside lawyers. I'm telling you, sir, people like Kapil Sibal, Prashant Bhushan, Dushan Dave, Dr. Rajiv Dhawan, they have done enormous service to the humankind. It's not about, but these are the people who are standing up for human rights, be it on the jailing of Indian any journalist or anybody, be it the Mandir or Masjid cause. Who fought for Babri Masjid? Dr. Rajiv Dhawan. He was the lead counsel who fought for Babri Masjid. And you know one thing? He did not charge even a single paisa to fight. Other side lawyers, I don't know about them. So it is not about Hinduism here. It is about the fascist government backed by RSS ideology. They are also influenced by, Nazis and the Hitler's ideology versus the Indians. It is not about any religion. And today, including Manoj Jha, a member of parliament from RJD, he challenged it. The lot of Congress people are challenging it. It's not about political party. It's individuals who are challenging it. And 3/4 of the people who challenge the law are not Muslims. We cannot say that it is only. The problem is this is about the Indian people against the present government. Now the point before Supreme Court will be arbitrariness, unreasonableness. On that is the test on which Supreme Court looks into the law. My question here on your channel is one thing, sir. I want to propound one thing. See, 1913, after the Government of India Act 1856, there was also a parliament, Government of India, British government and Indian government. That parliament, that Indian government came up with 1913 Act. 1923, 1930, it's also government of India. Then after 1950, after independence, the act was adopted. That was also the Parliament of India. 54 also Parliament India. The point I'm trying to raise is what was there for this particular parliament, because we all know this particular parliament is with one kind of people who has one ideology. The point is, can ideology of an individual be converted and propounded into the name of parliament, and then a thought, ideological thought which generates from one Western India, can it be made into a parliamentary law and propounded on the people and thrusted on them? It cannot be. That is what we are also working on. That we are in research of the matter. We are not hurrying it to file, but we are on the research of the matter, that about WAF, the origin, the differences, the distinguishing factors of WAF, and last to say about it, that the beneficiary of WAF is not only a person of any religion. It is all about the humankind.
Well, certainly, Advocate Masood, Jazakallah for that. And I know there's still so much more we can actually talk, but unfortunately, time has run out. I've got about 2 or 3 minutes, Shahzeen, and just final thoughts from you.
So, as mentioned by Mr. Masood sir here, that the section of people protesting against the Waqf Amendment, there are 3/4 non-Muslims. So I would like to add here that when the final discussion was being held in the Parliament, in the Lok Sabha, the leader of opposition, the Priyanka Gandhi, one of the main leader of opposition, she was absent that day. So are non-Muslims really willing to fight for the cause of Muslims? I see it as a clear Hindu versus Muslim issue here with the Waqf Amendment thing, because all the secular and all the secular leaders here in India are they really willing, and they're doing enough to fight for the cause of Muslims. I believe it is Muslims alone that they should fight and stand for their rights, because there is very little done from their behalf, and we should not rely on them. So all the Muslim leaders, they should come together to protest as much as they can against this the draconian or the arbitrary act which has been passed by the Parliament now. So that is my argument here, Mr.
Well,
Inayat.
Jazakallah khairan so much for that, Shahzeen, and also to you, Advocate Masood Khan. Unfortunately, time has run out, but to both of you, we say Jazakallah, shukran to both of you for taking time out. I know India is 3 hours ahead of us here in South Africa, so it's pretty late in your part of the world, but for having taken the time out this evening with us right here on Salam Media, we do appreciate your time. All the best, inshallah, and I'm sure that this topic is not coming to an end. We definitely will be having further discussions on the matter. But for now, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Inayat. Assalamu alaikum, Shahzeen. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much to both of you for having me here and to have this insightful discussion.
Well, clearly insightful it has been, because a lot has actually been unpacked in terms of where this Waqf Bill is, and also in terms of giving us a better and a detailed understanding. But for now, we're going to go for a quick break. We come back, and our focus is going to be on the killing of the medics and journalists in Gaza. We've assembled a panel and looking forward to that immediately after this.